So today was a big day for the defense. We're going to talk about Carl Granderson and Taliese Fuaga. DA had some comments to make. And of course, we'll go through all the day six practice reports. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So, by all accounts, the defense, except for maybe Dennis Allen's, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But pretty much by all other accounts, it looks like the defense had a pretty dominant day today in practice. Started out with the first series 11 on 11. Looks like defense was just bottling stuff up and was generating very good pressure, even when their backups were coming in. So, um, one of the big plays that they mentioned, and when Granderson gets on the mic, he talks about it a little bit, was an attempted jet sweep with Rashid Shaheed. He shot in there, made a nice tackle, pretty much blew it up for tackle for loss. One of the big stories was Chase Young was, as they kept saying, active and all over the place. Um, he started taking a little more snaps. Still, DA said probably about half than he normally would, but still more than he had yesterday. And he was credited with 1 sack and 2 run stops. So the defense largely dominated mostly in the passing portion of it, with pressure and stuff like that. So the defensive line looks like it was a battle in the trenches today in defensive line, at least in the passing portion of it, passing offense. Kind of held serve. There were some media who were making little blurbs, but hey, it was a lot better in the run game. That the offense looked better in the run game, but overall defense, especially the defensive line, kind of was what the talk was coming out of practice today. Um, Keep throwing numbers out there. Payton Turner's name popped up several times as would standout play, and they were using him in a sub package where he kicked inside to the interior, had a sack in there while playing that, but was bringing a lot of pressure. Isaiah Foskey also recorded a sack. And the only really thing that was said about the offensive line, for the most part, is that Trevor Penning had a rough day, as somebody put it. And there was a clip of Matt Paris um, had a few X videos, Twitter videos of the one-on-one work with the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman today, and several of them, probably about 4, 5, 6 of them. But in one of them, it was Penning against Carl Granderson, and Granderson just beat him so fast with an inside move, and I was like, ugh, they're all the talk we had with Penning yesterday. But hopefully, to bring it back to what we were talking about yesterday, hey, he had a rough day. He made his mistakes. He learned from them. He's going to move on. Better for him right now, I think, to face this kind of defensive pressure that seemed to be coming at him and see what he's made of. Can he recover? Or if he can't recover like he did the last 2 years, then somebody from the twos is probably going to get moved up to the ones. Offense, don't worry. We did have some offensive highlights. Seemed to be all I could find, really, other than the mention of that when they were 11 on 11, they were working on the run game. That the run game seemed to be pretty effective. But in the passing game, um, there was a Jake Hainer to Rashid Shaheed on a deep pass, and Shaheed got under the ball, made a nice catch on it. Spencer Rattler, I did see a clip of this. Spencer Rattler hit Mason Tipton on a well placed, another one, a little Tipton's toe taps on the sideline. But the timing on it was really good. It was on a deep out route and hit him right before the sideline. And once again, Tipton, like yesterday in that clip I showed, he had a real good cut. That one is on, somebody had a short on YouTube showing that play. It was a really nice play. And also on YouTube, I saw a short where Derek Carr hit one deep to Chris Olave. So there was a couple, even though the passing game seemed to not be going well for the offense, the defense, they kept saying they kind of own that. They were able to make a couple nice plays out of it. It was Carl Granderson's turn um, to speak with the media today. His Q&A after practice, and kind of leading off with him because I thought, in addition to how well the defensive line, the edge guys especially had a really good day today. Granderson and Young specifically were mentioned over and over again. That he was one of the guys picked to talk afterwards, and when you kind of talk about the leadership going on that defensive line, Cam is Cam. Cam's been the guy forever, and kind of talked about the his kind of leadership out there. But they asked Granderson about his because he is a starter now, and he's just, man, I'm trying to lead by example. Um, and he said something that Dennis Da had alluded to earlier when in Da's portion of the press conference, where that the edge guys right now in camp, they're playing very fast and very physical. And he was saying, look, you know, that was today. We were playing really fast, really physical. We had a very good day. And he followed it up with, because look, putting the pads on shows you who's really tough. And he said, look, last few days, we defensive line, we kind of taking it on the chin a little bit from the offense, but we showed up today. We proved it. We showed them, hey, look who, we're really tough. Pads are on. It's for real. Um, and he said that tough mentality has been in the last 2 days in pads, both days, but today it really, really kind of grabbed hold for him, and they brought it today. Um, they asked him about mentioned the one of the top plays and plays was Granderson, stopping the jet sweep, and he was just like, "Look, I was just trying to shoot upfield, you know, trying to knock back a blocker," and he's like, kind of fell into the play. It was just one of those situations. I was going hard. I was where I was supposed to be, and then just kind of got a gap in there and ran right in, basically in the backfield, right into Shaheed trying to come around on the jet sweep. So thought that was kind of interesting because it was, hey, I was playing hard and I was doing what I was supposed to do, and had a nice play that everybody's been talking about, and I would hope at some point somebody got a shot of it, and we'll see a video of that. But he's talking about, and Da was kind of talking about this too, that the D has to set the tone every day when they come out on the field. And because, we're a defensive team right as of right now, up until when we get the offense kind of rolling and doing its thing. But he said something interesting even with that. He's like, look, because we have to keep working to get better. Obviously, that's the theme in this camp, and that's just the theme in everything in life. You have to keep working at it if you want to be good and keep getting better at it. But he said something that just I didn't really ever think about clearly. He's like, yeah, because we've got to keep working to get ourselves better, but also to make the offense better because they're working against us. And I'm like, yeah, simple concept. I'm kind of surprised I hadn't thought of it before, but he's absolutely right that yeah, it's our job is not only to get our side of the ball better, but right now in training camp we're working with those across from those guys, and part of our job is to get them better. So that seems to be the set the tone that the defense is bringing today, and it's a good thing. Da is going to talk a little bit about that when we get to his portion of it. And they asked him, this was the part I really loved, was getting towards the end. They asked him about Da's comment the other day about having to earn the right to rush the passer. How did he feel about that? And he gave a very interesting answer when he said, "Hey man, that's my mentality." So I come to training camp every year to earn a starting spot, which is, when you hear somebody say that and you're thinking, man, you were our best defensive edge player last year. You had a spot. No, he was coming in the camp with the mentality of, no, no, no. I got to earn a starting spot. I got to come out here and work hard. And he said it specifically. He says, nothing is given in the NFL. You got to keep getting better at everything. Keep getting better and better because everything out there is earned. You know what? And that's the dog mentality that I'm hoping that he can get that through those young defensive linemen he's working, with or next to. And that It's the attitude I think the Saints once had on defense, and I'm not saying it's not there, but it's nice to hear, especially a man. This guy was an undrafted free agent. Talking about how important they are. He's a guy right now on paper is our best edge. He's the one DA has the most confidence in. Said as much basically because everybody else kind of has a question mark associated with him, and he's telling you I don't take anything for granted. They're not going to give me jack nothing. I got to come out here and earn everything. He's been having to do it basically his whole NFL career because he wasn't even drafted. So he had to come right out the gate and earn a spot on a roster just by showing up and going, "Hey, I'm a UFA. Let's see what I can do." And another player that had his time with the media was somebody that you would think would have gotten a lot of hype at this point and been talked about a lot in this point in training camp. We're 6 days in, been there almost a week now, and suddenly Taliese Fuaga is at the platform. And in DA's portion, DA talked a little bit about Taliese in his comments before he got up there. And that was one of the things he brought up. And I didn't even realize that we really haven't talked about him in the media and the press conference. DA really hadn't talked about him. He said it's almost a weekend. Our number one draft pick, our number 14 overall, finally gets up to the mic and really has the Q&A with the media. His turn. You thought he'd been in front of the line somewhere. But one of the things DA said is, look, as a rookie offensive lineman, his name not getting called and mentioned a lot is probably a good thing. And I was like, yeah, that's the old axiom. You only hear the offensive line names when somebody, a referee's throwing a penalty or something bad has really happened that he did. For the longest time, they didn't get a lot of credit for when they were playing well. So they, of course, follow up questions, and I think that was the point. They knew Taliese was going to be on the podium sometime after DA was finished. So I think they kind of got the ball rolling, finally going, "Oh yeah, we've been forgetting to ask DA about number 14 pick overall." But DA is like, "Look, I think he's picking up the scheme really well." He said the physicality is there, and that's one of the things they really loved about him when they drafted him out of college. And it's like, no, he's a physical guy. He's gonna push people around in there, which is what they want. He said, and all signs are encouraging so far about the transition, you know, to left tackle from the right side, but he still has some work to do. That's to be expected. So when Taliese got up there, they were kind of asking him, it was almost the same round of questions coming at him. But he said, he had to knock some rust off um, about getting used to like being in that left-handed stance and on the left side of the line. I don't know if he played very much of it in college, but I knew at one point in high school he was a left tackle. So and he said, a little rust, knocked it off. I'm doing pretty good. Because he said the thing he's concentrating on right now and kind of going, yeah, I'm glad to hear this. But he said, look, the biggest thing for him right now is just to make sure he knows his assignments. Just make sure he's going where he needs to go and doing what he's supposed to do on each and every play. Which is good to know, especially a guy that came out of a very similar system in college. You would think, yeah, kind of got that down. But he's like, seems to be very conscientious about it. Going, no, I can't afford to make mistakes. I got to know the assignments. Got to know what I'm doing. Sort of that mental process that we were almost talking about yesterday that Teron Armstead was trying to hammer into Trevor Penning's. Like, look, you got to have that plan when you go up there before they snap the ball about what you're going to do about the guy lining up across from you. So, because he said the playbook is it's not so much of a challenge for him as getting used to the high level of competition on the other side of the ball that he's lining up against every day. And he had a great comment. He goes, I haven't gone up against many guys like Chase Young in college. And going, yeah, I guess you haven't. Um, so I was kind of taken from that, like that mental side of it. That's what he's like, man, there's some guys over there that in 3 years of college, he probably came across one or two who's very good, high caliber edge player that was going to be in the NFL or a defensive lineman that was going to be in the NFL. But the caliber of a Chase Young, a Carl Granderson who played really, really well last year. So it's going, yeah, you probably didn't get a chance to run into too many of those guys. So, and like he's acknowledging, like, look, it's still going to be a big adjustment for me because they're bigger, stronger, faster. So I got to be bigger, stronger, faster, and better. Kind of like the thought process that he was showing. And especially towards the end, they asked him, and it seemed like he kind of tried to dodge it at first because he didn't really want to answer. But they were like, "Well, look, do you feel like you're having a good camp so far?" And he finally said, "Look, in my opinion, um, yeah, I'm having a good camp because he said he was just saying I'm concentrating on working hard every day to get better." Went So in his mind, that mental preparation, got to know my assignments, got to know everything's going on. That's success, and success is to keep working hard so I can get better every day. He didn't even say that he was getting better every day. He's like, so I can get better. So I can give myself the opportunity to get better. So I can get better for my teammates, get the work in. And I'm going for a young guy. I mean, it was like some kind of insights, rookie insights that you're going. I like where he's coming from. I like where his head is. Hopefully, everything else will work out about him. I'm pretty sure it will for him. I'm pretty sure we finally made a really good offensive line pick in the first round since I don't remember when. So overall, kind of when Da was running through his portion of the Q&A right after, there's a lot of stuff thrown at him. Some questions or some comments or stuff that the media want to talk about. I'm like, whatever. But he kind of let off and eventually worked into something he said that I thought was very interesting. Because he came out and said, "Look, this is second day in pads, and they were working 11 on 11s, which according to the media, didn't go well for the offense, pretty much." But he did mention they were doing a lot of situational offense and defense, concentrating some work on third downs, which I'm like, yeah, you probably need to do that every day because the offense struggled to convert them and the defense at times just couldn't get off the field. So yeah, I'm digging the emphasis on third downs on both sides of the ball. But what he was claiming, there was a lot of back and forth between the offense and defense, and he was okay with it. And, like I said, the media, almost to a person of everything that witnessed it, was like, nah, defense. But from his perspective, he thought it was about even. But later on, he got to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I can kind of see what he means by it was kind of back and forth or a little even. Because he did mention, he says, look, sometimes it comes down to kind of the level of the installs on the offense and defense. Meaning he said, look, when you start camp very early in camp, everything is simple. It's not very complex at all because you're doing some very basic stuff, and then you're installing more and more of the system in. And so as you do that, it's going to get more and more complex. It's going to be a little harder by design, a little more intense. I shouldn't say harder for the players involved in that scheme to kind of get everything together. You're talking about timing, chemistry, and all that stuff that applies to both sides of the ball. So yeah, I get it. I said, okay, that kind of in a weird sort of way makes sense. And he said, so at times you can hit a day in training camp where one side of the ball is a little further along in the install process, depending on the schedule and everything that's going on and what we're trying to accomplish. That so they may be running a little more complex scheme, and sometimes that can make a difference. And I'm thinking, yeah, probably both ways, because you may see an opportunity where um, the complexity of the scheme, say on the defense when they're going up against the offense, especially a veteran defense that's mostly been in it before. So as they're adding, ratcheting that up a little bit, getting more complex, yeah, the offense that's lagging behind could really, really struggle with that. But then I was like, you could also see the other side of that is you're putting it in, it's complex, and it's causing all kind of problems with the communication, with the chemistry, or in the back end or whatever it's going on. Meanwhile, the offense is running something less complex that they're very comfortable with because they've been running it for a few days before getting the next part of the install in. They may actually be more successful on that day. So I'm like, okay, I understood that there'd be at different levels, but I was always thinking, mostly because eh, typically the defense is always better. And in the cases we've been talking about all camp, our defense was already starting off at a higher level than the offense that was rebuilding the offensive line and coming in with a new scheme. So it's like, well, okay, maybe from the media, even though they're around football a lot, these practices and all, but that may be something that anybody that wasn't a player or a coach directly involved in it may kind of miss. I'm like, okay, benefit of the doubt on that one. That wasn't as bad of a behind kicking as the media kind of made it sound like. But then he went a little further and he said, "But hey, but passing offense typically behind passing defense at this time in training camp." And I was like, yeah, I've always heard that. But he said it's basically by the nature of what's going on there that and you can't really put a time frame on the fact that you've got a lot of timing between the uh, the quarterback and his receivers and all that they kind of have to work out, and you're going to have some chemistry issues on the offensive line unless you happen to bring a veteran offensive line back in all five spots, running the same scheme from the year before. There'll be some chemistry and communication stuff that they've got to work on to make everything right. So I'm like, makes sense. I get it. I understand. So um, was a little worried when I initially heard because I thought the offense was making very good strides the last couple of days, and then the second day in pads and kind of hearing, "Ooh, yeah, it was a total defensive day." But grain of salt, maybe there's some validity in what Da was talking about, and we'll see the catch up, and at some point maybe the offense pass again as both sides are working. You know, as Granderson said, their jobs are to get better, but also to make the other side of the ball better. So I'm hoping there's a lot of that going on. And Da also two mentions on players that I thought real quick need to worry about. Been hearing a lot about Jordan Mims, who is we I Buffalo Bills, maybe I think, but we picked him up at some point during the season last year off of waivers, I think, or maybe a practice squad. But he kind of been sitting on our practice squad or on our roster for most of the year. And he's made some noise, especially since he's getting opportunities now with Kendre Miller still hurt. And we'll cover the injury report at the very end of this. But they asked him about it, and they said a lot of the like the individual drills and stuff like that. Some, the guys at practice, immediate practice is going, man, 33 is his number. 33 is looking good out there. Kind of talking him up a little bit. So they asked Da about it. Da said, "Look, man, he's a good fit for what we're trying to do in the wide zone scheme because he has a very good understanding of they call them the tracks. I think talking about the running lanes. Um, but he said he's got very good vision, and he used the term. He said, "Look, he can buy time to make the reads and then make the one cut you need to make to get upfield and find the space and get upfield." Um, which I'm assuming most people refer to as patience when those running backs they kind of in the scheme. They might have to be patient for a second, but when it's time to put their foot in the ground, plant it, and go, they put the foot in the ground, they plant it and go before they get their head taken off because you can't dilly dally back there in this scheme. It's find a space and go. So I thought it was interesting that not really as much known about him, at least from kind of the fan perspective. I mean, he's been with the team a year now, and he's getting a lot of reps, OTAs and mini camp, and now definitely in training camp. He's still getting all those reps. So um, I was a little concerned about the state of the running backs. Just over a month ago, especially if we had to start kind of going deep. But there's a guy looks like he's kind of emerging and he's putting his foot in the ground, so to speak, and making the cut and has a real shot, which is good. Very good to keep that position deep, I think. Especially our top two guys right now on paper. I don't think he can give Alvin and Jabal both 250 to 280 touches this year in that offense. I don't think that would be a great idea. So if it's not Kendra, if we can't keep him healthy, or it's got to be somebody, and it looks like Mims is basically saying, "I want my shot at it." The other player, this one kind of surprised me, is they asked him about A.T. Perry, and Dennis Allen is basically saying, "Look, he's fine. He's holding steady. He's doing fine." But then he followed it up, kind of towards the end, basically saying, "But doing fine in anything is going to end up not cutting it." So again, I've talked about DA seems to magically, or somebody taught him. I don't know how this is happening, but kind of sending some message through the media back to the players, going, "May have to put a little extra emphasis on what we're telling them in practice." Basically, what it came down to, the gist of it is Da talks about, hey, opening our eyes or turning our heads or whatever, making us notice you, so to speak. That he hadn't really been doing that in training camp so far. And that they're like, look, we're waiting for him to do that. We're waiting for him to you know turn the heads, but consistently get better and kind of jump to that next level, so to speak. But he said, now he didn't mention any more players by name, but he did say it's him and some others too. There's a group of them basically, or handful of them that all kind of finding themselves in the same boat. So hopefully this is one of those little light the fires, kick the tires type moments, and get some guys fired up to go take that next step, because I don't think they're putting up with it. And you've got, you know, we can talk about Tipton all most of the video yesterday. Going, look, there's some hungry guys back there looking for some jobs, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But we need everybody to play better. We need everybody to get better, do your job, turn the heads, whatever you want to say about it. So I think when he was asked about Perry and he mentioned that, I think he took the opportunity to go, yeah, there's a couple other guys out there. So hopefully these guys, just like I said, get it all together and go. And we still have to run through kind of the injury report. I was dreading it because very late in practice, Chris Olave limped off to the medical tent. DA said, kind of looked like he fell on his hip, but we'll see. We'll probably hear more tomorrow, but not happy about that. The not practicing list is still Lattimore, Miller, and Saldivari, Brian Brzee. It looks like Aquanum St. Brown is also not practicing. DA said today after practice he has some hamstring issue. And Horvath, one of our fullbacks, wasn't there, and he was asked about. And DA said he's actually had an excused absence, and was supposed to be back today apparently, but with all the craziness with the airline flights or whatever, he was hung up somewhere and hadn't gotten back in time. So um, he not really on the injury report, but he did miss practice. But there was a inexcused reason for it. So um, getting a little concerned. Some key players in Lattimore, Brazil, and now potentially Olave going. I don't want to go down this road again where we've just got these injuries. Bill Kendre Miller too, for that matter, of guys we were really hoping and needing to be able to count on. So I just, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. Hopefully, they're all going to be coming back soon. Um, I didn't see anything about Jawan Johnson where he was or what he was doing, but he was doing stuff on the side yesterday, like we had mentioned, in a couple of days after practice. So I'm hoping at least we get some good news back with him real soon, and we see him back on the field. So defense supposedly, to the best of my knowledge and ability to figure it out, dominated today. Um, so thumbs up. Is that a worrisome issue when all of a sudden our offense is clicking and then our defense just stonewalls them? It almost sounds like. Um, I was worried earlier, but I would give myself not a thumbs up on that one. But um, I could understand if some people are just really going, "Hey, where did this turnaround come from?" Especially with some of the media talking about Trevor Penning did not look good. That could be an issue. So if you're new here, Please go ahead, hit the subscribe and notifications for me. Try to come in here daily, every day that we have a practice, and update you the best I can. Tell me what you think. Put them down in the comments. Comments have been great lately. And one of my highlights in the morning coffee is when I can sit down and start reading them and catching up with you guys. So thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Tim. Peace out. Who dat?